Sam's phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. with a message that should have made him happy. A new customer signed up overnight. But Sam didn't feel happy. He felt sick because he knew exactly what was coming next. Early users were easy. They loved new tech. They forgave bugs. They even bragged about being first. Mainstream users were different. They wanted proof. They wanted safety. They wanted someone else to go first. And Sam could feel the gap opening right in front of him, that silent, brutal gap where good products go to die. Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore is the playbook for surviving that moment. You're going to learn why early adopters and mainstream customers behave like different species, how to pick the single niche that can pull you across the gap, how to build a whole product that feels complete, how to position your product so buyers instantly get it, and how to plan a launch that actually sticks. This covers every major chapter, so by the end, you'll have the full picture. Sam's story starts like a lot of modern product stories start. He worked at a small software company building a tool for operations teams. Except it could spot errors, automate tasks, and save hours every week. At first, everything felt electric. A handful of early customers signed up fast. They were excited, opinionated, and strangely patient. They emailed Sam bug reports like they were doing him a favor. They asked for features that sounded like science fiction. They loved the idea of being ahead. And it was like he walked into a different universe. The new buyers weren't impressed by novelty. They didn't want a vision. They wanted a guarantee. They asked about integrations, training, security reviews, support response times, and who else was using it. They looked Sam in the eye and said something that hit like a brick. Come back when this is proven. And Sam did what a lot of smart teams do when they hit that wall. He worked harder. He polished the website, he ran more ads, he added more features, he pushed the team to ship faster. Nothing changed. Now stay with me, because this is where Geoffrey Moore's idea lands like a hammer. The problem usually isn't your product. The problem is your market. Moore takes a classic idea called the technology adoption lifecycle and shows you why it breaks right in the middle. The market is not one smooth line of people slowly becoming interested. It's more like a series of tribes that do not trust each other. First, you have the innovators, the technology enthusiasts. These are the people who try new tools like it's a hobby. They want to play with the future. Then you have early adopters, the visionaries. They're not buying for fun. They're buying because they see a strategic advantage. They want to do something bold. They are willing to take risks if the upside is huge. Then comes the early majority, the pragmatists. This group wants progress, but they do not want drama. They buy solutions that feel safe, supported, and socially validated. After that, you have the late majority, the conservatives. They do not want cutting edge. They want proven, cheap, and standardized. And finally, you have the laggards, the skeptics. They often resist new tech until there is no alternative. Here's the counterintuitive truth. You cannot average your way from visionaries to pragmatists. The early market and the mainstream market are separated by a chasm because they want opposite things. Visionaries want a breakthrough. Pragmatists want reliability. Visionaries tolerate missing pieces. Pragmatists punish missing pieces. Visionaries are motivated by a dream. Pragmatists are motivated by risk reduction. It's like trying to cross a river by stepping on stones. Except there's one spot where the stones disappear. You can be great at hopping from stone to stone and still drown in the middle. Sam read that and felt both relieved and terrified. Relieved because it explained the weird whiplash he was experiencing. Terrified because it meant effort alone wouldn't save him. And then Moore gives you an analogy that makes the whole challenge feel physical. A D-Day landing. You do not sort of invade a continent. You pick a beach. You concentrate your forces. You establish a foothold. You secure supply lines. Then you expand. That is exactly how you cross the chasm. You do not try to win the whole market. You win one niche so thoroughly that the rest of the market can't ignore you. This is where Sam made his first big mistake. He thought having more options meant being safer. So he pitched his product to everyone. Operations teams, finance teams, customer support, small companies, big companies, hospitals, warehouses, logistics firms, tech startups. He was trying to be flexible. But to a pragmatist, Flexible often reads as vague, and vague feels risky. Moore's advice is painfully specific. You pick a target segment that is narrow enough to dominate, and you commit like your life depends on it. Because in the Chasm, it does. This is called targeting the point of attack. You choose a single beachhead market and you define it clearly. Not mid-sized businesses, not teams that want efficiency. Those are foggy. A real target is something like operations teams in regional manufacturing plants that use a specific workflow, struggle with a specific pain, and have a specific reason to buy now. Think of it like picking a lock. If you jiggle 10 keys at once, none of them turn. The door opens. Sam decided to run an experiment. He went back through every early customer he already had. He looked for patterns. He wrote down what triggered their purchase, what problem they were desperate to solve, and what workflow they lived inside every day. One niche popped out. Small distribution centers that processed high volumes of incoming orders and constantly got hit with errors that caused returns. The early customers in this niche weren't just interested, they were in pain. They were losing money every week. They were dealing with angry clients. They were drowning in spreadsheets and manual checks. They had a reason to switch now. Sam felt the temptation to keep his options open. He could hear that anxious voice saying, "What if this niche is too small? What if you pick wrong?" Moore's response is basically, yes, it's scary, but trying to cross the chasm without focus is like trying to boil water by lighting 10 matches under 10 different pots. You create heat everywhere and momentum nowhere. So Sam committed. He narrowed the messaging, he built demos around that exact workflow. He stopped saying, "We can do a lot of things." He started saying, "We fix this one painful thing." People started leaning in. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Targeting is not enough because pragmatists do not buy core tech. They buy complete solutions. Moore calls this the whole product concept. The core product is what your team builds. The whole product is what the customer needs to succeed. And then it becomes life or death. Sam's product worked, but it didn't connect smoothly to the tools these distribution centers already used. It didn't have templates for their reports. It didn't include training for new hires. It didn't have a clear support process. Early adopters patched those gaps themselves. They were happy to hack around. Pragmatists saw those gaps and said, "This will fail inside our company." It's like selling a car without a spare tire, without a place to service it, and without insurance. The car might be fast, but the buyer is thinking about the day the car breaks down on the highway. Pragmatists always think about the day it breaks. So Sam built what Moore would call the whole product. He partnered with a consultant who knew warehouse workflows. He created onboarding and training. He added integrations that reduced friction. He built a simple support promise with clear response times. He created a set of templates that made the product feel like it was designed for that niche, not adapted for it. And for the first time, Sam stopped sounding like a tech company and started sounding like a solution. Now, pay attention to this because it connects everything we've covered so far. When you build a whole product for one niche, you create a secret advantage. You create a reference base. Pragmatists do not want to be pioneers. They want to know that someone like them already did this and survived. They want proof that the solution works in their world. This is why Moore pushes the idea of getting a beachhead customer you can point to. Not a flashy logo you can brag about, but a customer whose story matches the target niche and can serve as social evidence. Sam went after one ideal reference customer like it was the only deal on earth. He offered white glove onboarding. He promised to build 2 missing features they needed. He stayed up late testing workflows. He treated this like the D-Day landing. 2 months later, that customer became his proof. The next sales calls changed completely. Instead of explaining a vision, Sam could say, "A distribution center like yours had this exact issue. Here's what changed." And you could feel the pragmatist's shoulders drop because now it felt safe. Okay, so if that was surprising, wait until you hear this. Moore says that positioning is not a clever slogan. Positioning is the act of making your product instantly make sense inside the customer's existing mental map. Most teams position like they're writing poetry. Moore wants you to position like you're giving directions. He asks you to answer a set of questions that force clarity. Who is the target customer? What is the problem? What is the category you're in? What is your key benefit? Who are your competitors? What is your differentiation? And here's the sneaky part. Category matters more than people think. If your buyer cannot place you in a category, they do not know how to evaluate you. If they do not know how to evaluate you, they default to no. It's like walking into a grocery store and seeing a product with no aisle. You can't find it. You don't know how much it should cost. You don't know what it's for. You walk away. Sam had been positioning his product as a new kind of operational intelligence platform. It sounded impressive. It also sounded like nothing, so he changed it. He positioned it as an error reduction and workflow automation tool specifically for distribution operations. He named the competitor they already used, showed the limitation, and explained the upgrade in plain language. Suddenly the sales calls stopped feeling like persuasion and started feeling like translation. And that is the point. Pragmatists are not looking to be inspired. They are looking to be convinced. You cannot cross the chasm with a scattered marketing approach. In the early market, you can sell through individual relationships, charisma, and big promises. Visionaries will listen. In the mainstream market, the system matters, the channel matters, the ecosystem matters, the trust network matters. Pragmatists trust peers, analysts, integrators, consultants, and proven vendors. They trust what feels standard. This is why Moore talks about assembling the invasion force. Your company alone is often not enough to look credible to the early majority. You need partners and allies that complete the solution and reduce perceived risk. Think of it like going on a difficult hike. A visionary will happily hike with a map and a dream. A pragmatist wants a guide, a marked trail, a weather report, and a backup plan. Sam built that backup plan into his go-to-market approach. He identified the tools distribution centers already trusted and built integrations that made adoption easier. He partnered with implementation specialists who could help with rollout. He made his support offer clear. He built a story that said, "You are not alone if you choose us." Moore says you win the mainstream market in a specific order. First, you win a niche. Then you expand to adjacent niches using credibility. You build momentum like bowling. This is the bowling alley model. Each niche is a bowling pin. You do not try to knock down the whole alley with one throw. You hit the head pin hard, i.e. when it knocks down the pins next to it. Your first niche has to be chosen, partly because it can connect to others. It has to be a head pin that leads somewhere. Sam's first niche was distribution centers with high order volume. Adjacent niches included third-party logistics companies, regional warehouses, and supply chain operations teams that faced the same error patterns. With each win, Sam gained more references, more credibility, and more practical knowledge. He was building a trail of proof. Now at this point, a lot of teams think they're done. They think crossing the chasm is the finish line. Moore would laugh at that. Crossing the chasm is just the moment you reach the mainland. After that, you hit a different kind of chaos. Rapid growth, bigger demand, more competition, and a shift from niche strategy to scale strategy. And this is why Moore's later thinking connects to ideas like the tornado, where the market starts moving fast and buyers rush toward category leaders. But crossing the chasm is focused on the moment before that. The moment where you have to create traction with pragmatists so you can earn the right to scale. And this is where the launch matters. Moore frames launch like a battle. You define the battle. You choose where you will win. You decide what must be true for success. You do not soft launch your way through a chasm. Sam had been launching like he was tossing flyers into the wind. He posted content. He ran small campaigns. He hoped the right people would notice. When he read Moore, he redesigned the launch around concentration. He picked a narrow market. He crafted a clear positioning statement. He defined the whole product. He lined up partners. He secured a reference customer. He built a message that spoke directly to pragmatist fear. Then he launched with focus. Not like a viral explosion, but like something more valuable. It worked like a controlled fire that spreads because the conditions are right. Sales calls started with less skepticism. Trials turned into deployments. Deployments turned into renewals. Renewals turned into referrals. Sam finally felt the shift from begging the market to the market pulling. Here's the crazy part. The biggest thing Sam had to change was not the product. It was his mindset about how markets behave. He had believed that a great product creates its own demand. Moore's book forced him to see that demand is social. Mainstream adoption is not just about features. It is about trust, category clarity, and a complete solution that feels safe to buy. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Now, because this is a book summary that's meant to help you actually use the ideas, let's turn everything into practical moves you can apply right now. Even if you're not running a software startup, here are 4 things you can start doing right now based on what we just covered. First, identify which tribe you're really selling to. If your buyers are excited about being first, tolerate missing pieces, and ask for radical new features, you're probably in the early adopter world. If your buyers ask about proof, references, integrations, and reliability, you're in the pragmatist world. Those are not minor differences. Those are different psychologies. If you pitch a visionary story to a pragmatist, you will sound reckless. If you pitch a risk reduction story to a visionary, you will sound boring. Match the message to the tribe. Second, pick a single target niche and describe it so clearly a stranger can picture a real customer. The target is not small businesses or busy professionals. A real target describes a specific job, i.e., a specific pain and a specific reason to switch now. If you cannot say why they must act soon, you probably picked a segment with weak urgency. The chasm punishes weak urgency, and momentum creates trust. Third, map your whole product. Write down the core thing you deliver, then list everything the customer needs to get a successful result. Training, setup, support, integration, templates, policies, and even emotional reassurance. You do not have to build everything yourself, but you must own the promise of the whole product. This is where partnerships become a weapon. If you can complete the solution through allies, you can look bigger and safer than you actually are. That perception matters to pragmatists. Fourth, build a reference story on purpose. Do not collect random customers. Win one customer in your niche so deeply that their success becomes a repeatable story you can tell. Use that story to reduce fear for the next buyer. Pragmatists trust people like them. When your reference looks like your target, it becomes a bridge. Without references, you are asking the mainstream to be pioneers, and they will not do it. If you can do those 4 things consistently, you will stop feeling like your growth depends on luck. Even when the market is noisy, Sam still remembers the morning he finally felt the chasm close behind him. He walked into the office, made coffee, opened his inbox, and saw 3 messages from 3 different companies, all in the exact niche he chose. They were not asking what the product was, they were asking when they could start. And Sam smiled because he finally understood what Geoffrey Moore was really saying. Crossing the chasm is not about getting louder, it is about getting sharp. That's it for this video. I hope it was useful and gave you something real to think about. Thanks for watching and have a great day.